Hey, everyone, and welcome to episode number 2 of Pickswise Playbook. I am your host, Chris Rose, joined, as always, by Jared Smith. He is our gambling expert. Good to see you in your little Pickswise zip-up today. How you doing, Jared?
Oh, lovely. How you doing, guys? So Ross was so excited about my zip-up last time, I decided to get a fresh one with Pickswise. I am now accepting applications for sponsorships. So if anybody wants to hop on.
Yes, that would be, of course, our 7-year NFL veteran offensive lineman, Ross Tucker. You are adorning the polo, the Pickswise polo.
Yes, I got to sit up in my chair so you can see it, but I got the Pickswise polo on. I'm part of the team. Here's my question about Jared's green screen, okay? Let's get this off to a good start. Is the green screen because you're a Jets fan, or is the green screen so that other media stuff you do, they can put like fake backgrounds behind you? Because I thought the whole point of a green screen was to have like a background behind you, not just actually have a green screen.
We're gonna work on that in post, from what I hear, Ross. But another thing too, and this is a detriment to me, I have green eyes and I love wearing green, but you can't wear green. You know, they bring out my eyes when I wear green. I can't wear it in front of the green screen. So it's a little bit of a hindrance to my fashion sense.
Yeah, well, wait till Pickswise comes out with the green T-shirt. And you're going to be wearing that thing. In the meantime, we're going to have to get this show done in about an hour because Ross and I each have a shift at Best Buy to take care of right after the show. About supplementing the income, folks. So let's get going. Big picture here, and we are here to help you bet better, bet smarter overall. Jared, were all your friends like, thank you for the choices? Or were they like, God, I am going to listen to you from here on out?
It was a mix of both. You know, you're only as good as your last pick, just like you're only as good as the next day starting pitcher. You know, that's kind of the vibe here in the gambling world. But it was a very, very fun week. It was a very fun week, I think, because I like to think that we had a pretty good feel of the market on this show, and we directed the viewers in a pretty positive direction.
You know what I love? You only ever get tweets or emails about the losses. You know, like
It's true.
I'm up for the week. I was up a couple units, and I get a tweet here. Nice job on the under. You know, and it's always it's so funny because when people watch a show like this is the truth. They watch a show like this. They write down their picks. They take some of them they don't. All the ones that work, they look at those as those were their picks. They picked those. The ones that don't, they're like, Tucker's an idiot, Jared's an idiot. It's just so funny how I don't know if it's conscious or subconscious, but it's 100% the truth.
I don't think you're an idiot. But then again, you haven't made your week 2 selections yet, which we will do later in the show. We're also going to focus on the 3 primetime games, including the one that's going to get kicked off week 2 here at Thursday Night Football. You got the Giants and Washington both looking to get off the schneid and into the win column. We'll break those all down a little bit later. But I want to go back to week 1 and how you felt about your picks because, okay, I'm not going to call you a moron, Ross Tucker. Yeah, anytime you win 67% of your bets, that's pretty damn good in this business. So didn't you feel good about all the selections you made?
Felt really good about it, especially the ones, you know, we can talk about this, you know, throughout the season, but there's not just bets, it's how much you bet. And so my, 2-unit bets I feel really strongly about, like the Eagles, like the Seahawks, they didn't just win, they won by a lot. So I felt really good about those. Really good about the Houston Texans. You know, It's funny, and Jared, I'd love your opinion on this. I have been doing this for a long time now. I don't know, 2014, 2015 maybe. And I am just so much better at sides than I am at totals. And I know it's only 1 week this season, but I might be done with doing totals. I mean, I run really well on sides, but I never do as well on totals. The totals are kind of what bring me back closer to 50%.
And I think it's important, and this is why I like to keep track of everything, because I do think you can identify, just like watching game film, you identify your strengths and weaknesses. And I keep track of not only how I do on sides, how I do on totals, how I do on same game parlays, how I do on first quarter bets. And then at the end of the year, I'll kind of look at it and say, oh, I did really well here. I need to, keep betting those, or I didn't do great here. Why? And then you apply that to your next week or your next season. And that's how you improve, right? That's how you practice.
Guys, one team, I want to focus on just a team here instead of a particular outcome. The Green Bay Packers suffered the worst loss in the Aaron Rodgers era.
Wow.
Down in Jacksonville against the New Orleans Saints. It was ugly. They looked confused. They were all over the place. And I know what Ross is going to say, because we all were like, they're going to be over 10 wins. That was a futures bet that we were all on. We were like, of course. So Ross will probably say, I'm not concerned about Aaron Rodgers at all. I mean, yes, David Bakhtiari didn't play. They looked a little confused, but I think they'll be fine. We'll talk about their Monday nighter against the Lions, but I'm not overly concerned.
Why do people always do impressions of me? Am I that impressionable? Am I that easy to impersonate? Everybody, my college roommate, Kyle Brandt, who's on NFL Network now, he does them all the time. I mean, everybody does impressions of me. Is it that notable? Like, what is it about me? Is it my voice? Is it my rugged good looks? What is it that people want to imitate?
The latter. Imitation's the most sincere form of flattery, right?
Oh, stop being cliche, Jared. I'm going to kick you out of the room right now if you go down that road. I don't know. It's because you have a very distinct style. But I want to get to the crux of what I was saying. Are you worried about your futures play on the Packers after 1 week?
No, I'm not. I still think they'll win 11 games or more. But there are some things to be concerned about. And I'll give you 3, okay? Number 1, last year they had an elite left tackle, an elite center, an elite left guard, and the right side of the offensive line was just okay. On Sunday, Bakhtiari is out, as you referenced. The center, Corey Linsley, he's in LA with the Chargers now, and Elton Jenkins had to bounce out to left tackle. So you got rookies at center and right guard, and you've got journeymen at best at left guard and right tackle. They were probably below average at every position other than left tackle, where they bumped Elton Jenkins out. It's a big difference. I mean, it's a big difference on the offensive line. I thought it showed. Defensively, I have no idea why Matt LaFleur fired Mike Pettin. They finished the year last year 9th in the NFL defensively. And if you looked at the second half of the season, they were giving up like 12 points a game the last 8 or 9 games. Kevin King lost his mind in the NFC Championship game, and LaFleur just lost it and fired Pettin. They bring in Joe Barry. Now, I'm not a guy on having exact stats. What I like to do is kind of remember what I saw something somewhere and throw it out as fact. It's a lot more fun. Joe Barry, I think, has been a D coordinator 4 or 5 years. Yeah, I give myself some leeway there. And his defenses have never been better than 28th. Never. Wow. And defenses, it's hard to be that bad in 5 years as a coordinator. I would be concerned about the defense. 38 points to Jameis and the Michael Thomas-less Saints, whose center gets hurt during the game. I didn't like that. I don't like the offensive line. And I'll say this about Aaron Rodgers, okay? Last year, it's very obvious he had a chip on his shoulder. Very obvious he was kind of focused. He was angry about the Jordan Love pick. This year, I am convinced he looks like the guy that I went to yoga for at the beach. I went to the beach all summer. There was a guy on 80th Street that was doing yoga, okay? I swear Aaron looks the same hair, the whole thing. I don't want my quarterback to look like a yoga instructor at the beach, okay? I don't want that.
We prefer to call them yogis, by the way, where I go. So namaste. Jared, are you worried about that number going over 10?
I mean, obviously, when you lose a game that you're favored to, it's a ding against you, because that's how the sports books kind of derive that win total. But I will say this, the line or the odds for the Packers to win the NFC North actually got stronger, even though they lost on Sunday. And I do think that maybe is weakness in the rest of the division than it is maybe Green Bay being able to bounce back. But they have the get right spot this week against the Lions, who Aaron Rodgers just owns them. So you would assume that would be the elixir to maybe get them back on track. And they have an extra game this year to build up that runway. I know Ross's pick isn't a playoff pick, it's a win total pick, but in terms of long term for them to get back into the NFC Championship game, maybe get back to the Super Bowl, you have an extra game, you have a little more time to sort things out. And he's still Aaron Rodgers, until he falls totally off the cliff. I still would, put some faith in him.
And once again, we'll break down that Monday nighter at Lambeau Field against the Lions coming up in a little bit. 45 seconds for each of you. Ross, you start, you follow Jared. I want you to tell me the most impressive team for you in week 1 and why.
Other than the Saints, I will say the Philadelphia Eagles. And I know that's my homerism or bias or whatever. I was not that surprised that their offensive line and defensive line were that dominant. I've told everybody all summer their O-line and D-line are awesome when they're healthy, and they were. They destroyed the Falcons. But I did not know Nick Sirianni and Jonathan Gannon, their 2 new guys, play callers on both sides of the ball, would be that creative. I didn't know that Jalen Hurts would play that well. I think the Eagles are going to be a real factor in the NFC East for the rest of the year.
I agree with Ross. I will add the entire NFC West. But I'll more specifically, I think LA and Arizona really pushed the envelope for me because they both showed you how good they can be offensively, especially the Rams. Matthew Stafford brings such a different element to that team than Jared Goff did, being able to throw on the run. And if Kyler Murray stays healthy, good luck stopping him every week. And we saw something from Arizona we didn't see last year. Defense. They held Derrick Henry to under 60 yards for the first time in a regular season game since week 4 of last year. So if that defense continues to push the envelope and Kyler Murray stays healthy, Arizona's got a chance to have a pretty good year.
Well, guess what, Jared? You're looking ahead on the final exam because that's my question of the week about week 1. I don't think anybody's surprised necessarily that the Cardinals covered or maybe even won on the road in Nashville, but they throttled the Titans, who have been a very good team the last couple of years. Is it now that we look at Arizona and we have to put them in a different category on the way up? Or do we look at it the other direction and say, maybe we overvalued the Titans like right here? Because I told everybody, if you want an interesting Super Bowl winning play at plus 2,500, take the Titans. So
I was about to say, Chris, define we. Because I think it was you that said the Titans were going to go to the Super Bowl.
You know what, though? There's no I in Crit. There actually is an I in Chris. We are a team here at Pickswise. We are a team. So when we all succeed, we succeed together. And when we all fail, don't start pointing fingers. This is the way teams get broken up, Ross. We're only 2 shows in.
Do me a favor then. Clear all your picks with me before you say them on the show. If we're all on this together.
We'll start a group chat.
We all felt great about them winning the AFC South, so I just took it another notch.
That's a good point. That's a good point. And they still will. AFC South is garbage.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm asking, did we overvalue the Titans or did we underplay and undervalue the Arizona Cardinals? Jared, let's start with you.
I would say a mix of both. I mean, I really like this Cardinals team. I bought in on him in March because it's the Kyler Murray effect, year 3. Mm-hmm. I love he can be this year's Josh Allen of last year, the guy that takes that leap and all of a sudden shows you that he can be an MVP. And the Titans, the concern with Tennessee was the offensive coordinator switch. Arthur Smith goes to Atlanta. They promote the tight end coach Downing. And the system was the same, but sometimes, it doesn't catch on right away. But again, same thing with the Packers. They're playing in a weak division. They're going to have time to rev the engines, extra game. Not as concerned with Tennessee, maybe a little bit, but not overly concerned. If I had to lean in one direction, I would say we undervalued Arizona a little bit more.
It's both. You're right. And I don't know that Downing is running the same system when he calls 2 play action passes for Ryan Tannehill the entire game.
Yeah.
And by the way, my personal opinion, if you ever allow one guy on the other team to have 5 sacks, a coach should be fired because there are things you can do. There are things you can do to help out the offensive linemen so that doesn't happen. That should never happen. I was not very good.
Chip.
What's that?
I said, let's chip. I love using that term.
Slide to them, double. I mean, don't even get me started. I hate coaches that allow one guy to ruin the game like that. Drives me bananas. I will say this for the Cardinals. Kyler Murray, Can you imagine how fun football is for him? Like, can you imagine what high school football was like for Kyler Murray? I mean, if I was Kyler Murray in high school, I would have been going like this with my one hand, winking at the cheerleaders or pointing the girls in the stands as I just ran around the field. Nobody could touch me for a touchdown.
Baseball,
Can you
too.
imagine how fun that was? I hate that.
He was an all-state baseball player, too, right? I mean, he had it all.
Everything.
Yeah, there were a few things in that game, right? You talked about Chandler Jones. Only Derek Thomas in the last 30 years had more sacks on opening day than Chandler Jones, which was really impressive. In fact, he got so much over Ryan Tannehill, Lauren Tannehill was jealous up in the stands. It was a little weird. Now, for people that think, oh, gosh, Derrick Henry is run into the ground, there's no way he's going to have another third straight rushing title, keep in mind, twice last year in the regular season, he got held under 65 yards. The following week, he went over 200, both times, with multiple touchdowns. Now, I'm not saying it's going to happen in Seattle, but I just said it's going to happen in Seattle. I don't know. It'll be an interesting play.
That line moved a lot. The value in that game is on Tennessee, no doubt. That moved almost a full 3 points from the opening line.
And I just want to point out that the value on Tennessee to win the Super Bowl, it went from plus 2,500 to plus 2,800. So hop on that train now, people. We left the station. You can hop up. You're looking at me weird, like I farted, Ross. What's going on?
No, I just you are teaching people to get the worst of the number. They're going to lose to Seattle too. Okay. Well, wait till next week after they lose to Seattle and then get it.
Okay, except here's the deal. So they're home against Indy, then at the Jets, at Jacksonville. So they could get back on track those next 3 weeks in action. Then they hit the gauntlet. They play Buffalo and Kansas City in consecutive weeks at home. Wow. They're at Indy, at the Rams, and home against the Saints. So that October, early November schedule is brutal. I love arguing against myself.
No, you should still, though, in all sincerity, Chris, wait till next week if you really like them. After there's a good chance they lose to Seattle, they'll be like plus 3,200 or whatever. And then take them before they win the next 3 games. Take them at
based on what I heard, there was some chatter from some bookmakers this week. If Tennessee gets blown out again this week, that number is going to drop. It's going to drop.
All right, guys, we're going to play a quick game. This is called How Many Wins, because obviously the current win totals has moved since last week. Once again, Ross, hopefully you got the message to your good friend that's a Steelers fan that there are still 17 games. That's 16. Did he get any smarter in a week, by the way?
He knows it now. Oh, no, he thinks he's loving it because I took Buffalo laying the 6.5. So he's been reminding me every day. Steelers fans might be the worst. I mean, there's a lot of bad fan bases. Steelers fans are just so obnoxious and entitled. It drives me crazy.
No comment.
This is this is how we get more listeners.
It is, no question. All right,
more viewers.
Just give me give me a number here. Current win total for the 49ers. It's at 11.5. What do you got?
I would go under. I don't like losing their top corner, their top running back. Their division's nasty. I don't see them getting to 12 wins.
Okay. Jared, Panthers are at 7.5 after getting a W over the Jets.
I would say under. I don't trust Darnold. They didn't give him any really difficult looks on Sunday, and he still really struggled. And he missed a bunch of throws. So I would say slight under, because I think that NFC South, I think the Saints might be better than people think. Obviously, the Bucs are really good. Falcons are bad, though. So lean under. I don't love it, though.
Okay. How about those powerhouse first place Houston Texans? Ross, it's 4.5.
Probably lean over, but I don't love it. I think that they are a 4-win team, maybe a 5-win team. I don't like that number. I would stay away.
AFC West, just like the NFC West, unbeaten in week 1. The Broncos number, Jared, is 9.5.
Man, if Teddy Bridgewater plays like he did on Sunday, they can win 10 games because their defense is the real deal. They didn't even have Bradley Chubb. I would, but obviously the Judy injury is interesting, and I think they just lost another player as well on the defensive side. But that roster again is so deep. They have some depth to make up for it. I would lean over there. I would.
We know you wear 2 shirts. Are you like Teddy 2 gloves? Do you wear 2 gloves?
I love
while
it.
Doing this show?
I do. Usually I always
Put your
go
hands up.
undershirt.
No.
The color about the undershirt is important. You want to get some matching there. I got the gray going today.
That's great. It looks good.
Thank you.
Kind of. Ross, the Ravens, they lost on Monday night. Now they play Kansas City Sunday night. It's at 10.5.
I'll be there, by the way. I'm calling that game for Westwood 1.
Nice.
Yes.
Looking forward to it.
Cross
Ravens
promotion.
Chiefs should be awesome. It's another that number is still pretty good to me. I'd probably, if anything, lean under because I think the rest of the division's pretty good, and the Ravens have already taken so many hits from an injury standpoint. I think they're more likely to win 9 or 10 than they are 11 or 12. So I would go under.
Okay, Pats are at 8.5. Jared,
Over. I'll be honest. They should have won on Sunday. And Mac Jones was incredible. Like he had the best performance of any rookie quarterback by a wide margin. And I think he's only going to get better. And I don't know. Is Buffalo the real? I mean, Buffalo showed a little weekness. The Jets
I'll get
are
to them.
really bad. So I could see them, having some success in that division. I know they were already 0-1 in the division, but they still got 5 more games left, and I thought they should have won on Sunday.
Ross, your Eagles are 7.5.
Yeah, I would go over. I said over last week when it was 6.5. I'd still go over. I think it's an 8 to 10 win team, and certainly a better chance they win 8 or 9 than 6 or 7. That's still an over for me.
Jared, the Dolphins are at 9.5.
I thought they looked good. 10 wins. Yeah, I would say Buffalo showed the most weakness in that division, in terms of what their preseason number was. Very big game this Sunday. And I know, I don't want to give away Ross's pick, but I know he's on the side here that I'm probably going to lean to, but I would lean over with the Dolphins.
Speaking of the Bills, Ross, they're at 10.5.
Yeah, I would go over. I still think they'll end up winning 11 or 12 games. I do think Miami and New England are formidable, but I'm not going to let one bad game with a blocked punt for a touchdown and maybe the best defense in the NFL dissuade me that much.
Agreed.
And finally, the Monday night victor, the Las Vegas Raiders are at 7.5 as they head on the road to Pittsburgh. Jared?
I would lean under there. I think they're gonna get waxed on Sunday. That's a tough spot. Monday night, short week, traveling east against a good defense.
By the way, sorry, I want to make this clear. I made it sound like the game was 7.5. Once again, these are season win totals.
Yeah. I would lean under. I still think Vegas has a lot of problems. I do.
So you're like, Rose, I understood the question, you moron. Just read the question and let me answer it. Right?
No, I like the banter. Come on, that's what gives the show texture.
Is that what it does? God, my God, you're becoming like a social media executive now with that sort of stuff. You stay right in your lane, okay? Just keep wearing your 2 shirts, wear your Pickswise, and just smile and give us some picks, and we'll be fine. All right. So now we're on to the future odds movement. Okay, it's not easy to say, but there was a lot. Whether you're talking about individual awards and stuff like that, or team wins, for future plays, there was a lot of movement. Can you explain why, Jared?
Well, when you get your first look, that's, the books will see things that maybe they didn't notice because the preseason games don't really show you that much. And also, the bettors will come in strong after what they see because, as much as we try not to overreact, it's hard not to overreact to what we see because it's our first look in, X amount of months. So you typically do get, barring catastrophic injuries later in the year, the movement from week 1 to week 2 in the futures market tends to be pretty significant. That's what I've noticed the last few years for sure.
Okay. Like we talked about the Eagles, they moved from 6.5 to 7.5. And Ross, you still feel great about that. At what point, if the number keeps moving, let's say they upset the 49ers this weekend, and inevitably that number is going to move for their season win total. At what point are you saying I'm a little uncomfortable with still saying over?
Certainly 9.5, but even at 8.5, that would give me some pause. Although if it's after they beat the Niners, I might be willing to still do the 8.5. I mean, the thing that's tough about week 1 is you don't know like how bad the Falcons are, right? The Falcons had a rookie 3rd round pick, Jalen Mayfield, starting at left guard, who was a right tackle at Michigan. And I'm telling you guys, I have rarely seen a guy have such a bad game. I felt bad for him. I mean, every D tackle for the Eagles took their turns just whipping him. I mean, it was bad. So while I do think the Eagles O-line and D-line are for real, and I was impressed by the coaching staff and Hurts, it has to be a little bit of a grain of salt because I don't think Atlanta's very good up front on both sides of the ball. So you don't know after just 1 week how much is good from one and bad from the other. After 2 or 3 weeks, I feel like you have a much better feel for it.
Can I just ask you a football question, Ross? When an offensive lineman that you don't know or have an attachment to, an emotional attachment to, sucks, is it like a voodoo doll? Do all offensive linemen feel his pain?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, even though I had taken the Eagles in the 3.5 points, so I wanted to make sure that it was Chris. It's like I was glad he was getting killed until I knew the bet was good, and then once the bet was good, then I kind of felt bad for him. Then it was like, okay, it's like he's already dead. You know, like the Simpsons, the Simpsons gift. Like he's already dead. Like we already won the bet. Stop.
In the NFL, the bet's never won until it's won. I've learned that lesson the hard way many times.
Keep killing him. Keep killing him. All right, some MVP movement. Kyler went from 25-1 down to 9-1 for MVP. Jameis Winston went from 50-1 to 25-1, and Matthew Stafford, after his Rams debut, went from 20-1 down to 10-1. Any of those catch your eye, ear, or any other part of your body, Jared?
I mean, those NFC West quarterbacks are legit. Whoever wins the NFC West, if it is LA or Arizona, those quarterbacks will probably win that award. With Jameis, is he a candidate for comeback player of the year? I don't know if he is. It would take a lot to unseat Dak there. But if he's on that list, I would more rather consider him for that award. The New Orleans roster is very good still. You know, the only difference really is Drew Brees from last year to this year. So I really do like this New Orleans team. I just don't know if Jameis has enough, clout to overtake some of those really, really talented quarterbacks in those better divisions to win that award.
Random name I'll throw out there. I don't even know what his odds are right now. Justin Herbert.
Yeah.
Yeah, I told you that last week.
He might be able to get. I think
if they can win that division, I agree 100%.
Yeah, I'm with you 1,000% on that. Something to keep your eye on, though, with Matthew Stafford, because when a guy changes teams, you're like, okay, we look at him in a different light. He's played for one of the worst organizations in sports for over a decade. Now he makes his change. Maybe he's the difference maker, even though they've been a very good team the last several years. In my research, I can only find one guy who changed teams and his first year with his new team won the MVP award. I can only find one guy. People think it was Peyton Manning. That was his second year in Denver. He won the award out there. I've got Earl Morrall, who went to the Colts in 1968 and won the award. Other than that, I can't find anybody.
Interesting.
It's crazy because of how little player movement there was back then. Chris.
Right.
I mean, all those guys played for the only one team the whole time for the most part. So that's interesting that it's like pre-free agency is the only time a guy won that award.
Yeah. The discussion that's interesting, I would say, and we talked about this last week, and you guys made great points about the first-year coaches. The Rams have that. If the Rams do win that award, or if the Rams do win that division, would you lean, Staley Coach of the Year instead of, Stafford? Sean McVay. That would be where I would go. I would go Coach of the Year for McVay if they win that division.
Except they were just in the Super Bowl a couple years ago, and they were in the playoffs last year and won a playoff.
So maybe the first-year head coach is probably better for Staley and the other LA team, I meant.
Yeah. All right, real quickly, some Super Bowl odds that changed. The Cardinals went from 48-1 down to 34-1. Ross's Eagles from 85-1 down to 70-1. The Steelers from 44-1 to 32-1. Anything interesting there, Ross?
Not really. I'm not a big long shot guy. I got to be honest with you. I know it's fun. You never know. I don't see any of those teams winning the Super Bowl. I mean, I'll believe the Cardinals and the Eagles can beat the Bucs when I see it. Steelers the same. I didn't see enough from their offense to picture them, beating the Chiefs, some of these other teams. But I think I can make the argument for any of them, but I would make the argument with your money, not my money.
No, there's enough people tugging on my money right now. Thank you. You're not allowed to put your greasy little hands on that stuff. You look like you were biting your lip, Jared. Why?
I think this. I mean, I would look at the Saints because I do think if they win this week, from what we heard from some of the bookmakers we talked to this week, that number is going to move significantly. Because again, it's kind of the same roster as last year, but and they were a favorite to win the NFC for most of last year. And again, the Breeze difference really is the big difference on the roster. People just don't trust Jameis, but if he goes on the road and wins in the division, people might start to have a little more faith. So we saw that New Orleans number move off 30 to 25, and I would imagine that it continues to move if they win this week. I would say that'll be the biggest jump. You'll see a maybe bigger jump next week if they press on the road at Carolina.
And just real quickly, a couple of teams that had kind of a downturn in terms of their Super Bowl odds. The Colts went from 31-1 down to 40. Washington, which was a playoff team a year ago, we'll talk about them losing their starting quarterback. They went from 50-1 to 70-1. And the Atlanta Falcons, who were a 60-1 favorite to win it all, are down to 90-1. I just had to say that.
Next.
You don't like it when I say Falcons and Super Bowl in the same sentence?
No, or Colts this year at least. Not with that quarterback and those issues that they have.
You know what they should do? You know what they should do? If somebody bets on the Falcons to win the Super Bowl at 90-1, they should send Child Protective Services to that person's house.
People bet on the Lions this year to win the Super Bowl
to make sure they don't have children. They should really that should be a red flag to I don't know what government agency it is, but hey, let's keep an eye on this house and this person because they got some bad things going on here.
At the very least, if you are employing that person, it might be time to send them to the team shrink.
Yes, good point.
Just to see where their head's at these days. Just a little check-in, a little work check-in. I don't think it hurts. All right, let's get to our week 2 favorite plays. This is really good because Ross, you went 6-3. That's that 67%. I'm not Ivy League educated like you, but isn't that
66.6666?
We're rounding up.
Round up. Yeah,
yes.
We're rounding up. And then, Jared, you went 3-1-1. And if I remember playing the ties properly, doesn't that equate to 70%? Because don't you?
Yeah. So the 3-1-1, the super contest plays were 3-1-1, and we were fortunate to get the push on the Jets. We got a very favorable number at 5, even though I thought they should have got, if they would have got that 2-point conversion late, we would have been 4-1. But you get a half point for the ties in the super contest, so it doesn't count to your percentages. It's just 3-1 overall, and I would say that's 75%. Sure. Why not?
Okay, so let's run through our best plays. We're going to alternate, Jared. We're going to start with you. You've got your eye on the Patriots at the Jets, a pair of rookie quarterbacks going at it. It's the Patriots minus 5.5. What are we thinking here?
Yeah, again, off the top of the show, when we were talking about the Pats, Mac Jones graded out the best of all the rookie quarterbacks in week 1. I don't think that's understated because, he was picked later than all these other guys, but yet he showed that he can make all the big throws. He had 4 big time throws, what the analytics people like to say. And I think on the other side of the ball, the Jets offensive line is an absolute shambles. So the Patriots, I think, showed you that they can move the ball effectively. And the Jets really showed inconsistency on Sunday. And Bill Belichick feasts off rookie quarterbacks since 2000, 21-6. Now, the line movement now getting to a point where, it's up to 6. I think it could close at 6.5. It opened 3.5. That was the look ahead line. So you're starting to get to that point where you might want to be careful. I grabbed it at 5.5. I feel good about that number. And here's something to keep an eye on game within the game. I'm curious Ross's take on this. Darnold went after CJ Mosley in the middle on Sunday. 5 catches, 40 yards. James White was so good in the screen game. He's a guy that I would look to in the props market this week. I feel like the Patriots are going to outfox the Jets, and it's going to be one of those Belichick wins at MetLife vibes, I think.
Ross?
Yeah, look, you know what Jared's doing there? That's the happiness hedge.
Yep.
He's a Jets fan. He wants the Jets to win. So he's trying to bet on the Patriots so that he's happy either way.
All right.
I know that from a mile away.
Okay.
It's a good bet, though, I think.
Yeah, I certainly don't have a problem with it here. All right, Ross. How happy are you going to be with your Philadelphia Eagles this week as they take on the Niners?
Yeah, I'm a big fan, and you'll notice that today when I can get 3.5 points. I love that number. I think it's a toss-up game between the 49ers and the Eagles. The Niners lose their top corner, their top running back. We talked about it earlier. Eagles are playing at home. People are very excited about what the Eagles did week 1. I think it's a true toss-up game. Anytime you're going to give me more than a field goal in a true toss-up game, I'm going to gobble it up. Eagles plus 3.5.
So there is something interesting because the Niners, and they've done this in years past when they've had back-to-back games, at least, Detroit's not the East Coast, but it's the Midwest. They're actually staying on the East Coast here to practice. To me, that's always a really interesting thing. They come out and they usually play well the following week. The Niners do. It can be a galvanizing moment for a team. Like, you're not used to staying on the road, particularly this early in the season, away from your family and all that sort of stuff. Am I making too much of that mumbo jumbo there, Ross?
Well, let me just say this. The last 2 years when they did it, they destroyed the team in the second game.
It was the Jets, right? Wasn't it the Jets game?
It's 2 years in a row.
Yes.
I forget who it was, but they are the best at doing that. And I didn't even realize that till my buddy Steve Fezzik brought it up this week, that they have done extremely well. 2 years ago, they stayed in Youngstown. Last year, Greenbrier. This year, Greenbrier in West Virginia. So that has been a winning recipe for them for sure.
By the way, here's another one too, Chris. The Broncos do that too. They're at MetLife last week. Now they're in Jacksonville. Back-to-back East Coast trips, early games. Mm-hmm. That's something to keep in mind. I know we're not talking about that game, but that it kind of fits into that mold.
Okay. And by the way, Jared, you're good with the Eagles play. You like it with
love it. The analytics on Hurts were incredible. More disciplined in the pocket, executed the short passing game. Sure, we can make the argument that Atlanta was so bad, but you still have to go out there and make the throws. And he went out there and he made the throws. The best cover corner for the Niners being out with a more explosive passing game for the Eagles cannot be understated. And I am fascinated to watch two matchups this week. Deebo Samuel and Darius Slay. Is he gonna mirror him? How are the Eagles gonna play? Or how, are they gonna just let him go man to man? Are they gonna go zone? I'm fascinated to see how that goes. And also Brandon Graham and Fletcher Cox in the middle against that Niners O-line. The middle of the Niners O-line showed a little weakness, I think, against the Lions up front. A lot of pressure. So I'd be very fascinated to see how that matchup plays out this week too.
And by the way, just to put a period on this game, our outstanding producer, Jack, did remind us that it was the Niners at the Jets last year, and that's where the Niners suffered all those major injuries, including losing Nick Bosa for the year. They had a turf problem up there. Okay, Ross, you're back on the Houston Texans train, I see.
I am. Yeah, look, that's a lot of points, dude. I mean, whether you look at it's 12 or 12.5, depending on your look, it's a lot of points.
By the way, they're at Cleveland.
I know they're at Cleveland. I love the Browns. I can't believe your Browns choked that game out last week, Chris. So annoyed. Thankfully, I still was able to win that bet.
They did cover.
I'll be taking the Texans.
You look like you're angry at me. Why are you angry? I didn't.
I'm not angry.
I don't think they choked.
Angry. I'm annoyed,
choked, Chris.
I'm annoyed for the Browns that they did that. I think they'll win the game. I think they'll probably win by like 10. But the Texans feel good about themselves. Texans have a bunch of solid veterans, including their quarterback. And 12 points is a lot in the NFL.
By the way, I think I'm on the other side of this one.
Really?
I'm not going to lay the full. I think this is a teaser spot for me with Cleveland. Because the Texans, I think they might have played their best game of the year. We'll see. If they continue to execute like that on offense, they did not face a ton of pressure up front, and they actually did face a ton of pressure, but they handled the pressure really well. I think they're going to face a different kind of pressure this week with Clowney and with Garrett. That is going to be a very different test for Tyrod Taylor, I think.
Have you thought about what you're teasing that with, by the way? And what are we getting it at?
I was hoping you guys could. I think we'll get 6.5, which is good. I like getting them through 10 and 7. I figured I would give you guys a chance to convince me on another teaser spot this week, maybe by the end of the show.
Okay. Oh, I like that. You're teasing the teaser.
The teaser.
That's really phenomenal work.
Television gold right there.
Yeah. Okay. What do we think about the Saints? So the Saints were on the road, even though it was a home game last week. Taking on, the Packers in Jacksonville, and they made short work of them. What do we think the Saints now playing a real road game in Carolina? Jared?
this is the big test for Jameis Winston. This is the game that we'll know if he goes on the road and he handles what I thought was a very aggressive Panthers defense on Sunday. Granted, they were facing a Jets offensive line, which is not as talented as and is, have the cohesion of the Saints offensive line. But if Jameis goes on the road and puts up another good number, I think you're going to see the Saints really start to become one of those talked about teams in the futures market. And I think they have the ability to shut down that Panthers offense. We saw a little bit of this against the Jets, and I don't think Darnold really handled it that well. And I think what the Saints did so well against Green Bay, they sat in this too high safety zone and they made Aaron Rodgers dink and dunk, and they stopped the run with their base front. And if they can do that this week against Carolina, I think they're going to cause Sam Darnold some problems with that very, very talented defense.
This is why Jameis Winston is one of my favorite quarterbacks in the league. And I hope he doesn't change. I know Saints fans do. He will keep your team in the game because he's really talented, but he will always keep the other team in the game. And that's his deal. Like, Ross, how much of him do you have to see to believe this is the new and improved Jameis? Because I'm sorry, Jared, I'm going to disagree with you. Two games is not enough for me to be like, yep, I've turned the page on that guy who threw 30 picks a couple years ago.
6 or 7, probably 6 or 7 games till I buy it. We've seen it too often. Maybe he's in every third game, every fourth game, but he's a guy that has those games that he doesn't give you a chance to win. We'll see if he's eliminated that or not.
Okay. Jared's like, this is the game.
I have one more concern, and this would go against my, arguing with myself. I did read about the offensive coordinator coaching COVID issues for New Orleans this week. That definitely concerns me. But I like the line movement here. It opened at 1.5, and it immediately reopened back up over 3.5, over that key number of 3, and it got to 3.5. I even saw some 4s, but it came down a little bit now with the news on the coaching staff. And Carolina, again, they won on, Sunday, and they covered most numbers. So, the fact that it moves so strongly towards New Orleans, I think is a bullish indicator of kind of how the sports books and some of the sharps feel about them.
Okay, Ross, I got one more game before we move to the primetime affairs. Let's go with the Arizona Cardinals. They're playing host to the Minnesota Vikings. Vikings getting right around 4.5. What are we thinking there?
I'm going with the Vikings and the points. I mean, you guys will learn that I very rarely lay points. I told you this last week. I take the points, and it usually goes well for me. I don't think the Vikings are as bad as they looked against the Bengals. I don't think the Cardinals are as good as they looked against the Titans. The NFL has a way of humbling people and things settling, regressing, whatever you want to call it, closer to the middle. So I wouldn't be surprised at all if the Vikings win the game. And if you're going to give me 4.5 points, I'll take them.
What is it that you like? I watched a lot of that Vikings-Bengals game, and the Vikings were down by 2 touchdowns in the second half against the team where Cincinnati's offensive line still sucks. I'm sorry. I know Joe Mixon ran for almost 130 yards, but he did it on 29 carries or whatever. Joe Burrow, they're still beating his brains in. Can we figure out how to keep the guy upright, please, in Cincinnati? I mean, if you're talking about the future. But I get it. The Vikings got 2 really good receivers. They've got a great stud running back. They've got a quarterback who apparently has to play behind plexiglass or whatever comment Kirk Cousins said in the preseason. What is it you like so much about them?
Well, I like part of what I like is what you just said, the 2 receivers, the running back, and the quarterback. And even with how bad they started that game, if Dalvin Cook doesn't fumble in overtime, they still win the game.
Yeah,
so,
right.
I mean, I think people are over. I think people looked at the start of that game and the result of that game, and they're downgrading the Vikings more than they should be.
That's fair. No, that's really good. I like that. All right, let's start getting to the we'll save the tonight's game for last, but I want to get to the Sunday night affair. Baltimore had that is just a disgusting loss for them on Monday night in Las Vegas if you're a Ravens fan. They are now a home dog against the Kansas City Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes, who does not lose in September. He's 11-0, and B, does not lose to the AFC North. I think he's 8-0 against them or something like that. Ross, where's the play?
So you're telling me he's due?
Oh, God. Really?
No, you know what? I'm going to go Baltimore. I did not think Kansas City looked that good. I thought Baltimore, Lamar Jackson's 2 fumbles, very unfortunate. I do have some concerns about the Ravens this season in general, and in particular the injuries. They never seem to play very well against the Chiefs. So I don't love this pick, but if I had to take a side here, again, with that 3.5 number, I'll take the Ravens.
Line values on Baltimore. It opened, the look ahead was 2.5, 3, and now you're getting the hook. But I can't bet against the Chiefs in this spot. I bet against them last year in this spot. Wasn't it a Monday night game last year?
Yes.
Between the Chiefs and the Ravens, and I was giddy about the Ravens. I was like, they're going to control the clock. They're going to keep Patrick Mahomes off the field, and none of that happened. I'll say this. I don't love props. I give out props very occasionally, very rarely. When I watched how the Ravens defense tried to defend Darren Waller on Monday night, my eyes started to light up for Travis Kelce. And I would assume that he has a big game on Sunday, unless they just totally sell out to stop him. And then you would assume Patrick Mahomes will be able to make the adjustments, maybe go up top. No, Jason Peters is huge. Or excuse me, Peters, the corner for Baltimore, is huge. Peters. Yeah, that's a huge injury trying to defend the Chiefs. So I think that is going to be an issue too. And I agree with Ross. The line values on Baltimore, but I just cannot stomach betting against Patrick Mahomes in prime time with secondary issues for the Ravens.
Ross, is part of your thought, if I'm just thinking as a football fan, I know the Ravens have one of the best coaches in the biz, John Harbaugh. Like, they are flying back from the West Coast. They don't get in until Tuesday morning. They lose a game they probably felt like they should have won. They've had injuries all over the place so far. Now they've got this monster that they've never figured out coming into town, and they're back under the lights, the primetime lights, and they know they can't fall to 0-2. They just cannot do it. So is part of your thinking strictly the football part of this instead of looking at the numbers?
Yeah, well, I think your point about 0-2 is a good one. And I also would say, the Browns were up 29-20 on the Chiefs in the fourth quarter. Mm-hmm. Mahomes threw a ridiculous pass that I think the Ravens probably intercept in that situation, but it went to Tyreek Hill for a touchdown. He returned it. Then we know what the punter did. Don't even get me started on punters for the Browns, dropping the ball, blowing the game. So I feel like the Chiefs got fortunate, and that happens to them a lot. And I'm not saying that they're going to lose the game, but I just feel like one of these close games is not going to go the Chiefs' way.
You are calling Patrick Mahomes the luckiest MFer in the league. What are you doing?
You know what? When you do it as consistently as he does, it's not luck. It's unbelievable. The guy's unbelievable.
He is.
He is amazing.
And we can all agree, by the way, he is far and away the best quarterback in the league, right? Like, we can agree.
He makes plays that no other quarterback can make. There's only one guy in the league that can make some of the plays that he makes, and it's him.
I'm surprised how consistent he is. How consistently he is able to make the clutch plays late in the game to win. That's what impresses me the most.
Yeah, and he's so rarely – I know the Browns got their hands on a couple of passes, but they weren't like clear interceptions to be had. He so rarely makes the play that at least once or twice a game a quarterback makes a throw, and you're like, what the hell was he thinking? Like, that happens once a month with Mahomes, not once a week.
It's a good point. It's a really good point.
He's just so good. All right, let's get to the Monday night affair. And we talked earlier in the show about how we all feel like even though the Packers had their worst loss in the Aaron Rodgers era, they will right the ship in part because the division's so crappy. Well, Exhibit A, Your Honor, the Lions are coming to Lambeau on Monday night. And Aaron Rodgers, just want to throw this out there, Jared, before you make a point, 8-0 at home in Monday night, except for that one game against the Bears. He got hurt on the first drive. He didn't play.
Yeah.
And he's thrown 24 touchdowns during those games, Monday night. Now, I know it's a double-digit spread, but still, people do love the Packers. Do they have to be leery of the number or no?
Yeah, you always have to be leery of a double-digit number in the NFL. I don't care if it's, the Harlem Globetrotters against the Washington Generals. You need to be leery of the backdoor cover. We saw it in San Francisco, Detroit the other day. I mean, that game was over. It was toasted. And somehow the Lions came back and won. And that kind of leads in to how I think the handicap will go in this game. Green Bay probably revs the engines quick. They start aggressive. They want to show people that they're not as bad as they played last week. Aaron Rodgers has had amazing success against the Lions, 17-5 in his career, and he's had a 100-plus passer rating in 14 of those games. And on the other side, I do think Jared Goff showed you that at least he can be competitive. He was kind of middle of the pack quarterback grades on Sunday, which all things considered, the Lions' weapons, I would say that's pretty good. And we've seen the overs in prime time. I know it's very early. I don't want to look too much into this trend, but they're 3-0 so far. I think teams want to show their best stuff in the primetime spots. I think Detroit will, throw out some tricks and gadget plays. I think the Packers will want to prove people that they were not as bad as they thought. That's why I really, really like the over in this spot. You're getting it under 50, and I think that might be my best play of the week, actually.
I'm with him. I'm on the over as well. Look, I mean, dude, the Lions defense is brutal.
Yeah.
I talked earlier on the show about the Packers defense and Joe Barry. I love the over in this game. Jared and I are sharing a brain on this one.
Yeah, plus they lost their young cornerback, Jeff Okudah, for the year.
Oh, yeah. That's huge.
Yeah,
Speaking of, you talk about Verrett in San Francisco. That's a huge injury, too, for the Lions, no doubt.
All right, so let's get to the game that's going to kick off week 2 tonight. We've got the Giants taking their show on the road to Washington. Both teams losers last week, both at home. Okay, so the Giants are the dog in this one. It's right around a field goal. The over-under has dipped significantly even during the week. It's barely at 40 right now. Ross, first blush, what are your thoughts about this? Because we've got a quarterback change, which rarely happens from week 1 to week 2, but Fitzy is on the injured list with his ailing hip, which tends to happen when you're 77 years old. And then so Taylor Heineke, the guy who started the playoff game in the loss to the Bucs last year, is now under center.
Right. So first of all, I feel terrible for Fitz. He's a friend of mine. This was going to be the best situation he had found himself probably in his career, being the unquestioned starter on a really good team. So that's just a major bummer for me and for him. The irony is, you know who Heineke kind of reminds me of? Fitz. That's who he kind of reminds me of. Like, he's kind of like a poor man's Fitz. I don't like games like this from a betting perspective when it feels like there's a lot of unknown, and the primary unknown probably being Taylor Heineke. If you shop around, I've seen some places where the Giants are now cashing 3.5. So if you want to bet the Giants, make sure you shop around and get the 3.5. That's probably where I would go. I do think this is a toss-up game now with Heineke in there. So I would take, like I've done in a couple other games this week, I would take the Giants plus the 3.5, but that's hard for me to do. The Giants' offensive line is painful to watch. Daniel Jones is a human turnover. It's just they are a tough watch. They really are.
Okay, but if I am a Giants fan, do you know that Daniel Jones is 4-0 all-time against the Washington football team? And he is 4-19 against the rest of the NFL, Jared. This just screams not only will they cover, Daniel Jones is going to be the king of Washington. You guys are looking at me like I'm nuts.
It's just such a hard statistic to wrap your head around, because what does Washington do so well? It's what Denver does so well, which is, just grapple the quarterback up front. I mean, just make his life really difficult with that really good defensive line. So, it's interesting that Daniel Jones last year had so much success against Washington. I know Chase Young wasn't there 2 years ago, but last year Daniel Jones went 2-0 against Washington. Maybe Chase Young, maybe that was one of the games he didn't play in. And that would be something interesting to keep an eye on, because I just don't see Daniel Jones having that much success, considering how good the Washington front is.
He does.
I know, and that's it very makes it hard to bet on, because Ross is right. You just don't know, a lot of unknowns there. I will say this, and I'm curious Ross's opinion. Thursday night game, do you think the Giants installed any defensive schemes last week for Fitz, and now they got to change on the fly for Heineke, who I do think offers a little more with his legs than Fitzpatrick, slightly more? He was really good in the playoffs last year against Tampa Bay. Does that change your handicap at all, Ross? Do you think the Giants might have had to really adjust some of those, defensive schemes on the fly at all early in the week here?
No, because they all played Sunday. He got hurt
Okay.
Sunday. They knew he wasn't going to play.
Okay.
Saquon Barkley was back. That was good to see. Had less than 30 total yards. It's going to take him a while to get going, particularly behind Ross's favorite offensive line, the New York Giants.
Don't even watch the right tackle. Whoever's playing it, don't watch it. Don't let your children watch it. Watch
Was it Nate Solder?
Else.
Is it Solder or is he on the left side?
Whether it's Solder or Peart, when they put Peart in, the second-year kid from UConn.
UConn, yeah.
I mean, it's especially it's hard to describe. It's like painful to watch if you played offensive line. I don't know what they're doing some of the times.
They really struggled against the Broncos on Sunday. They really did to move it.
Should we have a Pickswise family field trip and watch offensive line game film with Ross? I would love to do that on the big screen. Huh?
Do you have the all 22s, Ross? Please send them to me.
Yeah, you're not digging that. God.
No, we can do that. Look, honestly, you can just see Google, like go on social media, Twitter, or just Google Nate Solder, Von Miller sack.
Oh,
it looks like before the play, Von Miller said to him, "Hey Nate, I got a incentive in my contract. I'll give you $100,000 for a sack." And Nate Solder was like, "Okay, go ahead."
Oh my God, stop.
Ahead.
Nate Solder made plenty of money in free agency.
He did.
Correct.
Out of you. Don't do that. Don't do that. By the way, Heineke, let's remember, he did play well. I think Washington was down 2 points going into that fourth quarter at home against Tampa Bay. He threw for more than 300 yards. He led the team, I believe, in rushing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I think it could be kind of fun. I think it sucks that Fitzy's not there. I am a huge Fitzy fan. He just looks like the dude that rolled out, who left his 7 kids up in the stands, rolled down to go play quarterback, and crushes it. And it looks like he's having the time of his life. So that's the part I'm going to miss, Ross. Did you talk to him?
I did not. I'm not. I know what that's like when you're hurt and all that stuff. I'll give him a couple weeks. And
then what do you shoot? A text, FaceTime, or call?
Text. Sucks, dude. When will you be back?
No FaceTime. I would love to FaceTime just to get a good look at the beard.
Put an emoji in there, Ross. Make it a little
based
warm,
on the situation. Whereas a text, he definitely will text you back.
Yeah. It's interesting. A lot of my guy friends, they don't like to FaceTime. They think it's weird. No. You're not a FaceTimer, Jared?
I only my family. The only people I talk on the phone these days are like my family and female friends. No male friends ever.
Ross?
I love FaceTime with my family. Yeah. I like FaceTime in general. Like, I'm glad I'm seeing you guys and we're doing the show visual, not just audio.
I agree.
I mean, for goodness sakes, if the pandemic taught us nothing, it's answer the FaceTime call. Don't hit decline. Don't you dare do that to me. Okay? If that happens within 1 or 2 rings, our relationship's going to change.
I would let it ring to the end. I would never hit that button. I would never hit that button on you, Chris. I would let it ring all the way to the end and go to bed.
You're going to play it over on the number of FaceTime rings is what Jared is playing it. All right, guys, this was a blast as always. I love it that we've got our new Pickswise gear. I don't know. I'll find out from Joe Barry what size he wears so that Ross can send him an autographed Pickswise polo or whatever it is. Guys, have fun this week. Best of luck with everybody's bets as well. Also, I want to remind everybody, tune in to this show. Drops every Thursday. It's on our YouTube channel. You can subscribe. And when you hit the subscribe button, you're like, oh, my God, am I going to end up getting magazines in the mail? Is this going to cost me $1.99? No, it's free. Hit the subscribe. Give us the little thumbs up. Leave comments about what you like with the show, what you want to hear that's different. Leave us some of your picks. By the way, don't do it after Sunday. Like, do it before Sunday so we can see if you're right. Like, these guys do it. Also, follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Pickswise, and check out Pickswise.com for more sports betting insights and analysis. It's all very simple. Okay?
Gentlemen?
Any parting shots, Ross?
No. Let's do it. Let's keep it rolling.
Yeah. Exciting week. Week 2 is, you learn a little more. It's another few percent into the bucket of, the sample size for the season. So let's keep it rolling.
So for Ross Tucker and for Jared Smith, I am Chris Rose. We will see you next time right here on Pickswise Playbook. Thanks for tuning in.